I can't. Transportation workshop meeting to order, and we're going to recess until right at about 2:35. Thank you. There, that's all we got to do. Reconvene our meeting, our transportation meeting, and Commissioner Pickens will lead us in the prayer, and Commissioner Rawls will lead us in the pledge. Stand if you can.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this time to gather, Father God, the commission and staff and citizens, Father God. Just lead us and guide us in the decisions that we make today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please remember the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good deal. Thank you, Commissioner Pickens and Commissioner Rawls. Is there any public comment on agenda items? And we'll get to your item in just a moment, so you don't have to worry about that. So is there any other, seeing no public comment on agenda items? Gentlemen, if we could, I want to move item D. These people are waiting on item D, and if we can start with that. Mr. Truxler, are you going to take item D? Yes, sir. Okay.
Move approval.
Okay, there we go. Just never a dull moment.
Well, I read the packet. It tells you everything.
Yep, I agree. Yep.
Well, good afternoon, Commissioners. This one is a vacate of a road up in Melrose, First Street. Just a little background. Marie Chase did most of this homework, and then these folks also did their part and got through everything that we requested for them to do to vacate a road. Got with the fire department, got with the sheriff's department, so all that just stuff is in this packet. So what Public Works Department is recommending is that we approve this vacate for this road. You know, there's still several more steps to go, but my take, and from Public Works Director, is that we vacate this road. We no longer need this road in our system.
Move approval.
Second.
Proper motion, proper second. Any further discussion?
I just have a question. Half the land goes to the adjacent owner, correct?
I think the same one on both sides.
You got both sides? Okay.
Yeah.
What the packet said.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. You're done.
You can take it off your list.
Done. Go to Publix now and enjoy your.
Sorry you had to wait. Sorry you had to wait an hour.
We have to do public notice and stuff.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Just for a point of clarification, just so they know that we still have to come back now to another public meeting to do the resolution to actually vacate the property through the process. Yes, but you certainly have the commission's support.
But somebody will let them know when the process is finally over with, though?
Oh, yes, they will know.
Good deal.
Perfect, thank you.
Hey, Mike, before we leave that, and it's not concerning them, so they can go ahead and go. I sent you an email. I'm fine. I just want to talk about process for a minute. Sent you an email the other day, and you informed me that, as your recollection can be, that everybody's entitled to submit for a vacation of the road based on state statute. Is that
I
correct?
believe that's correct. They can always submit. Now, we could approve it, or I could, at my level, I could say, no, this is a done deal. I don't think we should do it.
Well, the problem I have is I have a problem with the process.
Okay.
Right now. And here's where my problem lies. As Commissioner Rawls just said, well, half the land would go to this person, half would, but that's not necessarily true. And my problem, we got one right now out in Flora Home that we're doing a title search on, the county is, to see if we took it into our system, if it isn't in our system. We don't know if it is or isn't. It's kind of caused a big rift in the neighborhood. I'm wondering if the applicant, and I'm just speaking out loud here, I'm wondering if the applicant should not be responsible for a title search, for a up-to-date survey to bring to us for that. I mean, I don't want to put, I'm sorry? Okay, so my point is, I don't know if it should be a county expense any longer for us to be looking at if somebody wants to vacate a road. I don't think we can afford to continue down that road. Well, I know we don't get that many of them. But-
If I may.
You may.
In some instances, like there's a couple of them in East Palatka where nobody can really determine who owns the damn thing. And I mean, it's been going on, we've been looking at it ever since I've been here. One of them is a piece of property that looked like it was a drainage easement for the old Gem City defunct subdivision, but we can't decide who ever owned it or if it was part of any, for sure if it's even part of the Gem City deal, and it's part of the thing that we want to clean out in East Palatka as part of this drainage mitigation, and we haven't been able to decide yet who owns the thing. We even had one of the landowners that wants wants this mitigation work done, that offered that, look, if you can figure out who owns it and they'll sell it, he said, I'll buy it where I can give the county a construction easement where they don't have to purchase the land to go in there and clean this ditch. We can't even figure out who owns the thing. I mean, it's been looked at for a couple of years. So there are situations where it's not really fair to ask somebody else to look at it.
Right.
You know, if we're trying to determine because we want to use it or clean it or whatever, you know, that someone else has to pay, or it just bogged the process down even worse.
And there is a fee that we do charge. It's $300. I mean, it's a rather large chunk of money. Again, I don't know what a title search costs, so it could be more than that.
I bet a title search has got to be a couple $100, don't you think?
What, 100 maybe just for a straight title search? I mean,
I don't know. I know that one in Florhome is being highly publicized out there, and, I just don't know. I don't know the answer here. But what happens in that case, Rich, as far as Mr. Turner said, somebody's got to own it somewhere down the line, didn't they?
Yeah, but I mean, usually the first place you start is the property appraiser's records. And when you look at those records, it's pretty clear what roads are owned by the county and which ones aren't. And
there's some of them that are a little bit in the gray area.
Yeah, there
about
is.
Who owns, who doesn't, and does not own it. And the problem is if somebody pays taxes every year on it, which we're not even sure who's doing that, or a year and a half ago, last time I looked at it, we weren't even sure who was paying taxes, but somebody was paying taxes on it every year.
right, and sometimes the dilemma is you have private roads that over time, through decades before we ever sat here, somebody from the county tried to help grade a road, pull a ditch, and when those things happen, over time, it's kind of like they become our roads because we take care of it for so long. So I mean, that's another problem.
This particular issue is a ditch, is what it is. And it's on a sliver of land that covers from both sides of this ditch. And it says it's owned by the Gem City subdivision, I think is the name of it. There is no Gem City subdivision. There hasn't been one in as far back as we can find, but somebody's paying the tax on that sliver of land, or it would have gone up for a tax deed at some point.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of times what you're describing is when subdivisions set up like HOAs, you see that a lot, where the roads and medians, ponds end up being accepted to the
There's
HOA.
no subdivision here.
Well, and then the HOA goes away over time.
Yeah.
Just goes defunct. But
I'm assuming, are we still looking at, you know where I'm talking about? It's down Yelvington Road and it goes north to the Pierce Canal. Mike Rodriguez may know what
Oh,
I'm
that one
talking about.
I do not know about, but do you know about that one?
It's right across the street from a piece of property that we started sending the water down to the county line a few years ago because it used to naturally drain through that ditch, and we couldn't figure out who owned it to clean it out or do anything with it. So we just sent the water down by redoing the ditch to the county line canal down Cracker Swamp Road is what we did. So it's I mean, I can walk out, I can show you where it is, but we looked and looked and looked and couldn't find who owned the property or whatever. And Wayne Smith, Jeb Smith's dad, was the one that offered to go and buy the property and give us a construction easement on it. And if we wouldn't clean it out, he'd go clean it out himself. But he can't find who owns it to buy it, or can't find who owns it to rent it, or can't, but that's where the water naturally wants to go, out of that whole area that sheds from Cracker Swamp Road over to, Yelverton Road over to Cracker Swamp Road, and that used to be the main drain for that whole area. So, sorry, Mr.
No,
Chairman.
no, I think that's good. Rich, I want to ask you one last question about this topic. In the case of, let's just say a road or a drainage easement that you can't find records of who owns it, how does one solve that problem? Does a judge finally determine, does somebody make a petition for that piece of land? Because in Mr. Turner's case, it might be used for drainage and there's a value there for that. Or who makes that determination one day that no one seems to own it, it's a piece of land, we all know that there's a parcel there?
Well, they could probably file declaratory judgment, but there has to be a basis for the declaratory judgment, doesn't there, Rich?
The answer to both your questions is yes. I mean, what happens is at some point, a title company, when someone goes to sell or someone inherits and wants to build on a piece of land, what traditionally happens is the title company won't insure title. So they want then at that point, usually whoever the property owner is, to file a quiet title action to declare it theirs. But that's something we shouldn't be part of,
Why would we not be part of that?
because we don't have an interest in the property. I
But
mean,
we might have a drainage interest that we need for our drainage plan, because the water used to go through there and should be going through there, and now it's not going through there.
well, but just because the water goes through there doesn't necessarily mean we have a drainage easement.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're fact specific.
Could we look into that again? I'm pretty sure you know where I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah, I remember that one now. I remember meeting with him, and he showed me around his property, and
Oh, you went
I think
with
he has a
Mr.
shooting
Smith?
range
We've
right
all
there, like
been
kind of
with
across
Mr.
the street.
Yeah. Well, he,
He's a great guy.
he really is, and he, and it's not just benefiting him, it's benefiting a lot of
Yeah.
people in the area, but he was willing to do whatever he could do to move this forward. We just haven't been able to decide yet who owns it.
And there was a lot of water. It wasn't like just a trickle of water.
Well, we sent most of it down to the county line canal, which helped short term, but we still need to figure out how to drain that water across Yelverton and send it up to the old Pierce Canal and send it back into that drainage system, which most of it we're cleaning out in phase 2 of the project over there that we're doing. But all that water that, and we're sending the phase 1 water out across that, the phase 2 water, we're sending out through the phase 1 that we're putting in on the corner there where we're putting in that culvert. That's taking a lot of that water that used to sheet flow all the way to Yelverton, all the way to Cracker Swamp, and it's carrying it to the east down, and then we're gonna carry it across to Rainier's Canal, which they've already done, which goes up to the canal to get it out of there.
Yeah.
But that's like completely diverting Mother Nature, because Mother Nature always made that water go across one of them 5 canals that went across to the north, that ran that water north naturally. Well, somebody dug those canals at one time, they've just all growed over. And so, that was definitely one of those deals that we wanted to try to clean out in one of these phases. And especially if we end up getting the money for this year, we want to make sure that we use that to clean out that Gem City Canal, what I call, that goes to the north, and also try to identify one of those canals that because right now we're trying to drain everything from Turner Road, which is all the way up, a long way away from the corner at Yelverton. We're trying to drain that whole stretch through there the other way, because it doesn't go towards the prison until it gets further up the road. And so at some point down there, we're gonna have to clear one of those old canals that goes to the north out of those 5 canals that you can clearly see where they used to be. We're gonna have to do that. And they go across the same people's land that we're wanting to do for Mill Branch. The Mill Branch one that we're talking about cleaning that goes out there in East Palatka by Kyle's Bar. So at some point, we're gonna have to clear another one of those areas, and I think if we get this additional money, that's what we need to look at doing. So,
Okay,
go ahead,
but-
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You won't, but the question is, if we're gonna get some appropriation money, we really ought to own that piece of property, shouldn't we?
If we can get our hands on it.
That's what I'm saying. So,
Or if we don't own it, then we need an easement on it.
but we can't determine who owns it.
Well, correct, but
I know.
yeah, but one of the two has to happen.
Well, if we can look at it again, because that's definitely gonna be next pot of gold is gonna be heading that direction, I believe.
And that's something Mr. Troxel and I talked about earlier today is, you know, the property appraiser can be our friend in this, where we reach out to them and ask them to help us determine some of those things, because, I mean, they're the experts in tracing back the origin of some of these plats and land ownership.
Good deal.
Well, one thing we do know, and we all know, and I think when I first met you, and when I first got here, if we could get the drainage in this county under control, a lot of the problems would disappear, a lot of them.
And we're slowly working that
Yeah,
way.
and you're, yeah.
So now, do you want me, as far as vacating a road, we'll talk about that again, the vacating process, you want me to bring that in front of a workshop?
What's
To
that?
go, the policy, bring that in front of a workshop and talk through that or not?
Well, I want to finish with one statement. There's a government entity here in the county who somebody wanted to vacate a road. And they pretty much said, we're not even going to talk to you until you bring us a current survey. We want to see that. I don't know if we should make people, like Commissioner Turner said, that's kind of onerous on some people, but got to have some kind of standard to go by.
Correct.
You know, and I don't want to put a whole lot of burden on the county to go out there and look at all these roads or somewhat roads or areas or whatever we want to call them. And we do title searches and we're surveying. I think if somebody wants to vacate it, it almost should be on them because they're the ones that want the property.
Yeah, and if the expense isn't covered by the 300, we just need to adjust it to 400 because it's probably been 300 for a long time.
Right.
And so
Oh, it's been
maybe
old- that's an old
if it's
one.
400 or 500 or whatever it is, let's just bring it up to current monies is what we need to do. I
Or
think it would be better on our behalf if we're gonna vacate the road that the paperwork come to us directly. And so, you know, if we're not charging enough, then we maybe need to charge a little more. I'm sure it's been 300 since back when you could get a title search done for $65. You know, so now maybe it's probably, if it's 300 now, then go up some.
Why don't you check into that? It doesn't need to be a high priority thing on a transportation meeting, but it could be, yeah, we kind of figured out we're a little low, we need to go up, and we're good at that. Is that okay with you?
Oh, that's fine, as long as have you guys seen the whole, I mean, it's an older process, I mean.
I'd be in favor of looking to see what other municipalities and counties are doing, because
Okay.
I think the city of Palaka's,
It's-
$600 or $700.
It's still a pretty
Vacating a road.
onerous situation. I mean, it takes a lot of effort to vacate a road. If you looked at that package today, at the amount of information that was included, somebody has to be really serious about it to get it done.
Oh, and the other thing I want to ask this. Is it something that we could look at? Do we look at it first? Let's say that Mike Rodriguez wants to vacate a road and he comes before us at a workshop. I want to vacate this road. And we go, you know, Commissioner Rawls says, wait a second, my neighbor, it's in my district and people are up in arms about that and they really like that area and there's no appetite there. Why do we put Mike Rodriguez through that process if we pretty much know it ain't gonna happen? I'm just asking the question.
Well, the first step is usually to go to Public Works, Clay Electric, all the different utility, anything else, and make sure none of them have an issue, because if any of them do, it falls apart.
Right, absolutely.
Anywhere
It does.
along the way, any utility, any whatever, it falls apart.
It doesn't go any further. Yeah, I think too, if, this goes back to our conversation yesterday, I don't have a use for you guys doing any abatements of roads because I don't have any roads on my property. So I don't, as a taxpayer, I don't want to pay for you guys to, not abating roads, but closing roads. If somebody, you know, wants to do it, I think they should pay that. It's not a function of government at that point. Now we're doing a land transaction that's going to benefit one individual
Or two.
or two.
Yeah,
It's a private deal. Has, you know, the rest of the public shouldn't have to pay for your time, anybody else's time for research, you know, go out thing looking at it.
Yeah, okay. I think you got your I think what I heard from staff the other day was they need more direction from the board on some item. I think if, what I'm hearing from the board is for you to look at those costs and see if
Take a
they are.
look at the process.
Right.
Yeah.
If the cost and the process is good, I'm fine with that. But it shouldn't be a cost back to the county, I will say that. We got to be reasonable here.
I had fire hydrants flowed the other day, and it cost over $300 just to flow a couple fire hydrants. So there's a cost of doing business. Correct. Whether you're government or a citizen, and I personally, as a taxpayer, don't want to pay that cost for somebody else.
Let's move on.
Welcome. We haven't went that far, trust me.
Yeah,
We've done really good.
Chairman did a really good job holding the meeting up for you.
Mr. Adamczak, we did item D. Other than that, we're good, so.
I'll be right back.
Okay, sir. Next item, let's go to item E, and then Commissioner Adamczak will be back. This is a request to, letter of support from our BOCC to the governor and the legislators requiring or regarding additional federal monies. When the governor was in town, I sat across from him and asked him that question. There's going to be a lot of money coming from Washington to the.
I wouldn't know.
I'm sorry, we've had that conversation. Thanks for duly noting.
Open the door.
But, so, thank you for messing
How
me
was that
up.
breakfast, by the way?
Good, it didn't cost me as
Better
much
for
as,
some than others.
didn't cost me as much as the sandwich with Rick Scott, but that's okay. Not yet, anyway. So, there's gonna be money coming from, and our district guy, Greg Evans with DOT is gonna see some of that money. The governor, the legislators did not overfund SCOP and SCRAP this year. So the ask from,
Not overfunded?
well, with the extra money coming in, they actually underfunded. They underfunded what they did last year with SCOP and SCRAP. They didn't put as much money in the budget as they normally do. But their thinking is this. Their thinking is the fact that they're gonna get this extra money, and then we reach out to them. So Small County Coalition, Florida Association of Counties has pretty much said, we need to send a letter of support to to Greg Evans, our district secretary, saying, if there's extra monies, we have projects, i.e. the bridge could be one, 310 bridge might be one. If there's any projects we can move up, the pipeline, say, resurfacing County Road 315, for example, from 20 to 310 or 310 to, we've talked about all those projects. So if there's projects in the pipeline, they're asking us to go ahead and say there's additional money coming, and we'd like for you to look at that. Because that also helps our economic development.
Right.
When we're putting people to work here in the county and all that kind of
What
stuff.
are you actually asking today, Mr. Chairman? You asking us for,
A letter that
be
we can.
able to do a
Yes,
letter
sir.
of support?
Yes, sir.
I move that we do a letter of support on item E.
Good deal.
I'll
Second.
second, yeah.
Okay. Proper motion by Commissioner Turner, proper second by Commissioner Rawls. Any further discussion on item E? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's go back to item A then. We'll start at the top.
Great.
DOT's paying for it, right?
Yes.
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Simple as that.
Well, it's real simple.
No, it's simple.
I mean, if you looked at the packet, DOT
Right.
wants us to participate by helping them, but they're paying, right?
Yeah,
It's already paid for and done,
Yeah.
so
Yes.
we,
Put to
Move
bed.
approval.
proper motion by Commissioner Turner,
I'll second it.
proper second by Commissioner Pickens. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next item, item B, the St. John River Water Management District Ready Cost Share Funding Update, Horse Landing and Elsie.
Yeah, this has already been approved and moving and going, right? So, I mean, it's a matter, you're just updating us today that we're fixing to get started?
Yes, actually, and also for the next phase that we applied for this year, on May 11th, the district's board approved an additional $450,000. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. So that'll be coming shortly. We're working on the scope right now.
On the next one, could we possibly include Sunset Point? There's 2 or 3 of them in there. It's right by the river. You know where Sunset Point is? Right across the bridge on the left. First road on the left, and Musselwhite's on the right, Sunset Point's on the left behind the metal building place. They got some areas in there with septic tanks right on the side of the river. So if maybe we could include some, and there's sewer in there, so maybe we could include hooking some of them up in the next phase They're definitely just as environmentally sensitive as the ones down at Elsie Drive in that area. Also, if we could look at possibly, I think we have sewer down, if you go turn down by the Capital City Bank and go all the way to the end and make a little jog and keep on going to the river. I think along the river there, we may have sewer in there too, but if we don't, then we maybe ought to look at trying to get something run down there where we can get all those tanks off the river too.
Okay, and yeah, for this application, it was for septic to sewers in a certain area, but I can reach out to them and ask them if that's a possibility to adjust the scope. But for what
There's
was
only a
approved-
couple, there's only a couple of them left in there that's not already previously hooked up off grants that came years ago. But there's still 2 or 3 of them in there. If we can, it'd be nice to get those last couple 3 in there off their sewer system, onto our sewer system.
Yeah, now's a good time to work on that since we are working on the scope for this.
I was just talking with Rich about the ordinance that requires us to connect anything that's newly constructed to the county sewer. The owners of Adam and Eve, one of the owners contacted me about a month ago wanting to know why it was that there was no sewer available for him. He wants to get on it, but he said there's no sewer over there. And
There should be sewer right in front of town.
he s-
Yeah, it
he
goes
said he
down
was told
Elsie
there-
Drive, there shouldn't be, it's not far
I
from
know,
there, because
it's-
it
it's
goes
right-
down Elsie.
But can y'all check and see and let him know or let me know, and I'll,
Goes down Pico.
Yeah, well, it goes down Elsie too, because it's got that pump
It makes
station
that
right
loop, it
there in
comes
front
up
of the
Elsie.
old Captain Joe's Restaurant, there's a
Right.
pump station right there, so
But
it may be
he's saying they
that.
told him he's gotta cross 17 and pay for the Jack and
I
Boy.
don't believe that's accurate, Jeff,
All right.
I think that,
He wants off. He wants
I don't think
on.
it does. Now, he may have to pay to hook up from Elsie Drive to his place, across the front of the old A&W
The
mobile
mobile home
homes, because
place.
I don't think it runs that direction. But,
But why wouldn't we give him the tap on his property? We'd make him pay that, because it says if it's over 250 feet away, we don't make him hook up, even if it's new construction. But it also says if it's new construction, it says they shall hook up.
within so many feet.
But it says if
It's
it's more than
available.
250 feet, we don't have to provide it. But I'm just saying, if, from a new construction perspective, for somebody changing out a mobile home or bringing in a modular home, I really think that we should compel them to make the connection, because the ordinance says,
I don't,
Land change
I don't mind going down that road, but keep in mind, we're gonna open up a can of worms when we do, because I know for a fact that somebody wants to go the other direction off of Pico, off of Elsie Drive down
Off
to
of
the old
sewer and the
Florida
septic.
Packet. They've been wanting to get down there for
They've been
years and
wanting
years and
that,
years, but
yeah.
there's nothing goes down past Elsie Drive that I'm aware of, right?
Down at the Hay
it's
Nation.
a Florida packing?
Hay Nation, yeah.
Yeah, Hay Nation, yeah.
You and I went down there too.
Yeah, the sewer, the mainline sewer is actually on the other side of 17. It is
Exactly.
not on that side.
That's right.
But the water is on that side of 17.
But
We
this
had
is all
sewer
force
to
main.
Cheyenne.
Correct.
What would it take for us to bore a line under, put in a 4-6 inch force main and make it available to these guys and tie them in?
It's pricey, but I can get the cost, but,
Well, you're working on this right now. I just wonder why we didn't, and I don't think it'd benefit you to loop it, obviously, or would it?
probably not the sewer, the water, obviously,
Yeah.
yes.
I don't know, the request was made, and I figured while we're discussing that area, he's wanting to get off a septic, and I guess he reclaims that piece of land back where his drain field is, and he would like that.
All right, I wanna
And
ask
as
a
for new
question.
construction, I think that might be like a health department, because I don't think they allow people to put in septic tanks where there is an existing sewer infrastructure. So for new construction, just to address
Within
that.
so many feet,
Do what?
within so many feet.
Yes.
You
But how
can't
how's that
expect
checked?
somebody to hook onto it when they're a quarter of a mile down the road, and it would cost $90,000 to hook onto the sewer system. So, I mean, that's not fair.
I think too, while we're talking about this, we've got to figure out a way to stop making the maintenance and repair of these things in the future the taxpayer's responsibility. You know, I don't know how many grinders you guys have operating right this second.
Commissioner, that's gonna be part of what we're looking at. I don't mind discussing it or any suggestions or or that you may have,
I'd
or
say
recommendations,
whatever-
but that's definitely gonna be part of
Whatever
what
we've
we're
got
looking
done,
at.
let's say is done, but from here on, I think we should be looking at making the homeowner responsible. Even if we had to give them help and then collect it back in the water and sewer bill over time. But I just don't think that,
From what I've read about other people or other counties doing that in other cities is, not being able to rely on the homeowner to maintain it adequately. And so whenever you're trying to get a grant from someone and you're about to spend that much money, they would like to know that it's going to be taken care of. And whenever it's the responsibility of the homeowner, there's nothing to guarantee that they're going to take care of that equipment that they're investing in. So
when it's our responsibility, they're not maintaining it anyways, and we don't have the manpower to maintain it right now. I sent you that information on that Liberty system. Even if you go with that, it's almost $3,000 a piece. If we've got to go tear somebody's yard up, at what point do we, if you sent your employees in right now with a mini hoe, dig one up, put one in, or drive up in the yard and suck everything out of the tank and replace just the pump, it's costing money. If you sub it out, you're paying a plumber $125 an hour plus to do that. So at some point, the burden is going to become unbearable for the taxpayers because you've got, I'm guessing, what, 400 or 500 pumps out there right now?
I think right now, there's only about 140 to 150, but we're about to get
More of that because you had 135 in your first shot.
I think we're about ready to get more.
yeah, because there was only 30 in the last
Or what,
connection phase.
total, I'm saying on the,
And before that, from what I was told, there was about 140. So, but we're about to do another 90 and then another 40.
You should
the
have
first
those
140
records.
is how old?
Do what?
How old's the first 140?
Yeah.
Well, wasn't shortly after I got here. They
15.
Yeah.
So they're 6 years old.
Yeah.
Clock is ticking on that first 140, and we own those, is my point.
We do.
And we, the public, will have to pay to replace those at some point.
Yeah, but I think if I heard him say something correctly, unless I misunderstood, part of the grant requirements is that we take care of them.
Yeah.
If we're not gonna take care of them, we don't get no grant, we ain't gonna own them in the first place.
What I'm saying
So,
is that the grant
part
gives
of
us the
this-
money to get started, and we
Yeah,
get
but
started. and-
Part of this, trying to make everything self-sufficient over there, is this is gonna have to be part of it, because the only way we're gonna grow off grants is to do what the grants say. And so, like I said, this is definitely gonna be part of what we're gonna talk about. Right now, I'm just trying to run down the money into this.
The conversation I'm having is not regarding areas like Elsie Drive where you're going down and you're just connecting a bunch of people or have the potential to. If somebody off of Horse Landing Road decides that they want sewer, and the lines have been there for how long, and they're putting in a new double-wide mobile home, or they're going to site build a house, it should be their responsibility to put their grinder in, not ours, at that point.
Well, I think the way it works right now is that they pay for a tap fee. And the tap fee, the grinder pump and everything comes with it. And the tap fee's not cheap. It's like 10,000, and I'm not far off, so it's like 10,000. Well, if you have a plumber put it in, it's 5,000, but then in the 5,000, the plumber's got only run it to the pump, and then we've still got to hook on to the pump and go forward. So Sam was trying to explain all this to me the other day, because I was asking him about the exact same situation. So it's not that much of a savings, and if we're gonna start charging 20 or 30,000 for a tap fee, then all it's gonna
heck
do is
no.
discourage people
No,
from
no,
even
the-
trying to get on there. And we're already at like 10,000 for a tap fee.
The real cost, and I sent this, was it 2,800 for that?
Roughly 2,800.
$2,800, and that's just me calling up Hughes Supply saying I need and this is a spun fiberglass tank, which is actually better than what we're installing now. Then you're gonna spend about 4 hours with 2 men or women, digging a hole, putting the tank in, connecting it to the house. Assuming you're not running more than about 100 feet, you can do all that in 4 hours. Then somebody's gotta connect it to electrical. I mean, you're not gonna have 220 volts laying around at most places. Most sewer pumps if they have a sewer pump at a house, is gonna be 110 volt. So, that should be the responsibility of the homeowner as well. But I think $5,000, $6,000 could easily do it. But I'm saying is as we go forward, if you put a septic system in, you're gonna spend, especially in that area we're talking about, every penny of that, if not more. So I think that's a wash, but trying to get the person that is dragging in taking out a double wide, putting in a double wide, saying, I don't have to get a new septic system, my own is fine. I think that's where we should be crossing the line, saying, no, sewer's available. We're trying to prevent damage to the aquifer and putting a high nutrient load in the river.
Well, Commissioner, that's exactly why I brought it up today under my comments, if you think
Okay.
about it exactly, is that at some point, new construction needs to tie on
Yeah.
to sewer, if sewer's available. But we got to define availability, but I asked them to look into that, because we can talk about it all we want until we have the specifics. We don't know. I don't know
It
that
says
it's
in
not
our ordinance that
already required.
It
I
says
don't
in our
know.
ordinance that they shall do it.
Yeah.
That's what I thought,
Yeah,
yeah.
it says
But it's
SHAL.
within so many feet, or within, there's some deals in there, so.
It says we will not run it if it's over 250 feet, then they don't have to, obviously. And we don't have to provide it if it's over 250 feet. But like, I'm dealing with a situation in Jacksonville right now where somebody wants sewer, and it's 100 feet, and the city of Jacksonville is saying no. And I said, can you just give it, because they have gravity. I said, can you give us a force main into your manhole, and we can put a grinder there? Still a lot cheaper than putting a full-on septic system in Jacksonville, so.
Well, we'll get there, Mr. Chairman. We can get back on the subject, which is,
Mr. Adams wants to
Okay.
make a comment.
Yeah, I just, I think you guys covered it actually as we went. Jeff's last comment kind of, I don't know, I just, from a perspective, I guess when we're looking at this holistically to get there, I'd like to understand, and maybe it's a good idea to understand what our total debt is. And this is what was
working
going on.
on that. You
No,
got to
I
give
know.
me more
Yeah,
than 3 weeks,
I'm just putting
Paul.
ideas. I don't know what you're working on.
I'm
what our
working
total
on
debt is,
everything, believe me.
If we're able to pay down some of that debt and lessen our impact, our costs that way,
It was
potentially.
15 million to start off, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm
I
working
would like
on
to
it,
see
guys.
every
Y'all
angle.
got to give me more than 3 weeks. I'm just
I-
telling you, you can't put this on me and say you
No.
got, and then keep on and on and on.
I just didn't know if that's
Give me a
something we were
chance.
looking
Yeah,
at.
yes, sir.
because it
That's
was something
page
when-
1.
And I only noticed it when I looked at the budget that there was that
Page
there. so-
1, and if you look in your, it's not proper to call it CAFR anymore, it's a annual audit, annual financial situational audit or something else, because that other one's a bad word.
And I support both of you.
Somewhere in the world, that's a bad word.
Connecting as many people as possible that are required to be connected by law. So that I support that no matter what.
Well, that's definitely gonna be one of the first things we look at, but we've started with the money, but be fair to Miss Young, she's been snowed under getting prepared for yesterday's meeting, so now that hopefully we'll have a little time to run down those 5 loans and how they're working, and she's been working on this very diligent when she had time, so, yes, sir, we're working on that. That's page 1, the money, and then how do we go from there? You grow the system. You grow it in the best way you can in the area that you get the biggest bang for the buck, and you grow mainly water if you can, because we got a lot more capacity in water than we do sewer. If you grow the sewer too fast, next thing you know, we filled it up and you got to build a new sewer plant, and you haven't done anything but made yourself in a worse position. So we're looking at all that right now. I've had multiple meetings with Mike and Sam and Julie and different ones, but you just got to give me a little more time.
On those lines, when we redid that zoning today, this morning, that was a question I asked. And maybe that needs to be piled up in that same conversation.
Yeah, we'll
because
get
that's
there.
yeah.
Just give me a
I
little
will.
time,
I
guys,
promise.
please. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't mind doing it for you, but
Well,
you
you got all
got to give me
weekend.
the opportunity.
You got all weekend.
Got all weekend to get it done.
Yeah. Go to the Holiday Inn Express.
All right.
And before we move on from
So
this,
what do you need from us?
Well, you need something on item B, like a motion to approve, or you just giving us an update?
well, I was bringing you an update, and then also the district would like to schedule like a kickoff meeting or like a groundbreaking ceremony for the recent grant that we have, and I just wanted to discuss
Let
that.
us know when.
Can I bring my excavator?
No, we got to bring shovels and hard hats.
Yeah,
I'm assuming y'all bring us hard hats and shovels.
yeah, they said
I
they
got a
wanted to
hard
bring
hat.
all that, and
We
they
can
had a
bring our
podium,
own. I mean,
and
we can bring our own if some of
I
us.
got a Seminole hard
I
hat.
doubt
I
Commissioner
got a
Adams.
Putnam County one.
You got a hard hat?
I got one,
Who'd you
bro.
steal it from?
I got one. I got a gold shovel in there too from
Wow.
the first time we broke ground on this thing.
All right,
I had a
well.
gold shovel and Liam wrote on it.
I have a hard hat I can bring, but it doesn't say Putnam County on it, so.
I don't know if we want to wear your hard hat.
Next.
All right, what else do you need from us?
That was it. I was just giving you an update on that project as well.
Okay.
Trying to move along, cause I figure C's gonna take a while.
All right. Item C. What are y'all having fun over there?
Sorry, y'all went down a lot of holes, but I missed one. Sorry. I'm good.
Y'all have a good lunch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Appletinis.
A good laugh's a good thing. It's been kind of serious around here the last day or so. We need some laughs.
What, Commissioner Pickens, what did your dad say? What was it? A little levity never hurt anything, right?
There's always time for a little bit of humor, even at a funeral.
Kind of, all right, so the next item, item C.
Yeah, this is just a, requesting a letter from the Board of County Commissioners to FDOT regarding boardwalk trail conditions and safety concerns. I think this came up at the last,
Waterways and Trails Board.
so, I know Mr. Rawls is familiar with this, but
So.
Hang on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
Commissioner Turner
okay.
just threw his light on. He's got something to say.
Oh,
Is it my turn?
It is your turn.
How the hell do we get involved in the city's boardwalk? The city got it, the city got the grant, the city's maintained it, the city, now how did the county all of a sudden
Oh,
get
look,
involved in the city's boardwalk?
so what happened is, at the last Waters and Trails meeting, I asked them if it would help if the BOCC wrote a letter.
Of support.
Yes, because that is part of the bicycling trail that connects one side of 17 to the other. It's past its useful life anyways. The city's not asking us for money. They're asking for support, correct?
correct.
Yeah.
I want to be very careful and very sure they understand that we're not for taking over maintenance on that thing.
Not in the city.
You know, I'll never forget the day they cut the ribbon on that. I went to that ribbon cutting. And they cut the ribbon on one side and everybody walked all the way around underneath and came to the other side, and they had 2 deputy sheriffs there to stop traffic where everybody could walk back across the street.
Yeah, I remember that.
Why did y'all do that? Why don't you just walk back around?
Well, that's what the sheriff did, because it's so far. It's closer to go to the red light down there on Second Street or whatever, and cross at the red light than it is to go all the way back
I've
around.
ridden on it several times,
Huh?
but I've ridden on, but the biggest thing is the trails are starting to become a big draw. There's a lot of marketing that's going on.
Well, the city needs to look into that for sure.
Yeah, the cost of replacement and repairing, they want to replace the entire deck. It's pretty
Well,
substantial.
that sounds to me like something the city ought to look into,
They are,
yeah.
yeah, but they, so Sonny came, from the city, and that was the ask.
Well, I
I don't
appreciate,
mind.
Ink on the paper.
Yeah, letter of support, that's fine,
I
but
don't want to be responsible.
well, if you're not real careful, it'll go from a letter of support to where you just ate that and it's gonna be your deal from now on. Kinda like St. John's Avenue, that probably started out as a letter of support sometime in the past, and we're fixing to pave that baby. You know, so I'm just,
But I think they're gonna ask for money from DOT, correct? Because that was actually a DOT project, and it's at the end of its useful life. So, yeah.
Yeah, but he just said letter of support.
well, when that project started, it was supposed to be a walkway that started and ran offshore from the city dock all the way to the other side of the bridge with several landings going in. That was the original concept. And then when DOT took it over, they decided they didn't like that concept, so they just basically went down and under the bridge and came back, which is ridiculous, because you can go down the street and cross at the red light and ride your bicycle there. I mean, so it's not like there's not traffic control within 400 feet of the end of that deal. So, you know, I've never been for that project since day one. I think it was as ridiculous as anything that's ever been built. I understand why they did, fine. But if y'all want to write a letter saying we support them fixing it up, that's fine. But the last thing I want to do is get this commission involved in the city's project to fix their boardwalk.
So why don't we word it that the BOCC supports the city's
Right.
effort,
There you go.
effort, but we, somehow you can word it where we have no financial, we don't want any financial obligations.
It shouldn't be up to the county to pay for the city's boardwalk.
Maybe they can put a toll booth on it. What do you think? No, I'm just-
Oh, you gonna
That'll
get-
go
you
into
gonna
the
get
paper.
letters over that one?
So you want me to modify the existing letter and then
Yeah, I
bring it
think it
back?
needs-
or-
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I've
modify the
already-
existing letter to say that
I
while.
think Sarah already had me sign one, so, yeah, you have to modify it.
Well, the letter doesn't say that we're financially responsible, does it?
No,
Yeah, but I'm
No.
So
I'm
one
not
that's in
gonna
here-
vote for it unless it says that that we support the city's efforts to restore and maintain their boardwalk.
I can do that.
With no financial obligation. to it.
Yeah.
Mr. Adams,
Understand.
that,
Thank you.
And I guess just eliminate the whole idea that the county's seeking guidance. I mean, 'cause if you
Yeah,
read the letter.
Yeah, this doesn't need to be the letter.
Right.
Yeah, we're not seeking.
Just make sure we
guidance.
don't reference that we're seeking guidance.
We're not doing anything.
We're offering
except-
support, right.
Yes, sir, I'm on your board with you, Commissioner.
I'm on your board.
Yes, sir, I'm on board with you, Commissioner. We're,
I might be on board with
we wanna, yeah, we wanna support the city in their efforts to ask DOT to maintain the city's property.
Or if we're seeking guidance, we're seeking guidance to help the city, but not help us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
well,
agree.
I ain't seeking
good.
guidance.
I think that took care of all of our items, guys.
Okay.
Anything else y'all need to talk about on transportation? No?
No, we're good.
Did you happen to have a chance to look at that culvert? When I sent you a picture of?
The culvert,
Got
where
hit
was
by-
that?
got hit
I've
by
looked at a
truck-
bunch of
got
culverts.
hit by a
Just
tractor.
say no or we can go home.
Got hit by a tractor.
Okay, under Commissioner comments.
No,
Mr.
no, I have not looked at that one yet.
Mr. Rawls has the floor on Commissioner comments, so you want to talk
June
about?
14th, Town Hall meeting in Boswick. That's the second Monday,
Right.
at 6 PM. Mike, while you're up there, Fort Gates Ferry, the scope of work.
Yeah, the scope of work is done, sent that over to General Services, and then we're working on the PO to get the lumber delivered directly to the site.
Cool. And then, we really haven't had any discussion. At the last Waterways and Trails meeting, there was the Great Waterways, Great Florida Riverways.
that
Was brought,
document?
yeah, and I don't know that we need to stick our head in the sand at this point. I think we need to be somehow proactive, because if any of this stuff starts to take shape and we don't have a say-so in any of it, that's really gonna stink for the citizens. I don't know, if any of you guys have any idea if this thing's making any traction in Tallahassee or not, but
What's the issue again? I'm sorry, I was writing myself a note.
Rodham Dam.
the Great Florida
Oh.
Riverway and,
Breaching
yeah,
the dam.
If other groups get involved in this and lead Tallahassee in a direction that, because we don't own the dam, obviously, if they're able to make that go away, I think we should be on the forefront of having benefit from it somehow and being part of that conversation, versus everybody just imposing on anything they want in Putnam County, and we're stuck with it.
Okay, basic.
You have to give that some thought.
Mr. Adams, that? Yeah, I got
And
it.
I think as being part of that conversation, we could, if we chose to, we could voice our concerns that we believe the dam should stay. I mean, so if we're not at the table, we're not conversing about it. I would rather see, though, because I know that Mr. Carr has another document that shows uses with the dam and uses without the dam. I think that's the study they pulled that from, and they just left out the part with the reservoir. Because there's a lot of very good renditions of things with the reservoir the way it is today. I think we should look into finding those renditions and pursuing those possibilities, keeping an eye on the state, obviously, with what like I said that day, we don't own it. We're not gonna have a vote on it, where we can just allow our political clout, whatever it means, to try to affect it.
From years ago, when I first got here, the board had passed resolutions in support of saving all that area out there. I don't know where they're at. I haven't seen them recently. I'm understanding that back years ago, we also referred to it as a secondary water source for the county if we ever needed that. I haven't seen that either, but I was told that. So
I was told you'd drink out of it, but
I told the newspaper reporter out of Jacksonville that I would drink out of the spillway or out of the reservoir.
Yeah.
If he would drink off the Jacksonville landing, He quickly said, no, he would not do that. So, yeah, and he said it wasn't the same water, and when it flows north, it's the same
Yeah.
water by the time it gets there, so. Do we have a seat at the table? You know, they create a document whenever they want, and they create fundraising whenever they want. I think it's a very nice document. It just leaves
They put a
off,
lot of work into it.
it leaves
It's
off.
very one-sided.
It's very one-sided, and it's kind of like what I always said, the chicken and the pig goes to breakfast, and the chicken makes a donation, and pig gives it life. And with that product, there goes your reservoir, you know, or your lake, basically. So I don't know the answer. I don't know where we
Just keep-
fall down, but
Keep diligently watching it like we do.
yeah, that's what
and
we
then-
do, and,
Yeah,
you know, and
I know you do.
I think there's value to our residents of having that. You know, I'll go back to Congresswoman Corrine Brown, who stood in that office and said, my people fish for their substance out there at that lake and that reservoir, and her people do that. So, you know, she was very adamant that, yeah.
That's all the, just open up to the middle of the book, but you've got 2, 4, 6, 8, you got 16 different groups. So I don't know,
They've been doing it for a long time though, Jeff. They didn't just start.
but now they coalesce.
Yeah, but it's bigger than just Lake Ocklawaha. When you look at the watershed, you gotta look from Grandin all the way, and I would encourage you at 3 in the morning when you have nothing to do, pull up the
I'm
seriously,
staring at the inside of my eyelids.
pull up the GPS and the elevation certificates and follow the flow of water down 315. They knew where to put that. The Corps of Engineers knew exactly where to put all that structure at. And then when you look at Alachua County and all that water flowing this way, it's a huge watershed out there, and it's a lot bigger. It's got flowing wells, it's got, just to pull it up and say that's the end of
Like I
it.
said, I only bring this up to,
I know.
you know, say that if we ignore it and it moves on beyond us, we'll look at it one day and say, what happened? So I just want to make sure that we're aware. I don't know if anybody in Tallahassee is looking to make a decision. I don't know if
They're
anybody
not
in the
right
federal government. So you know, this could be something 10 or 15
We
years down
have-
the road.
I will say this, Save Rodman Reservoir Inc. has a lobbyist on hand that keeps his finger on the pulse of the governor on this issue. Now, I'm not saying that we get a different governor and everything's changed. We heard that the other day too, when people in the White House change, situations change.
Right.
So we'll have to deal with that process when it comes. And truly, there's gonna be costs coming soon for those locks and for the repair of the dam, for just regular maintenance of it. But, you know, I think it's still a valuable resource to Putnam County. And would it be a valuable resource with the other renditions? Possibly so. But what's more valuable, y'all lived here during some of the drought times, and do you want to turn the spigot on and get water out, or do you? I mean, some of these flowing wells dried up, some wells dried up,
Well,
so.
I think everybody
So-
knows we're all for saving
I know.
Raleigh.
I think part of it, the reason why I'm talking about the other renditions is if we got the state to move on a couple of those renditions and they actually built them, it would make it more likely that Rodham stays.
I agree with that.
So that's where I was going with that pursuit. If, I'm still, when I ran, I was on the fence on this subject. I'd go either way, to be honest with you.
No,
It's,
you can't, you're going one way.
I can. And it's because
Sorry.
I see the value both ways. I like the Rodham. I live near it. I live closer than anyone to it. And
It's in your district.
right, it's somewhere that I go regularly, and it's somewhere that I drive past purposely, so it's an area I pursue, so. So that's why I was saying, if we go and we actually get someone to develop one of those and build on the Rodham, the way it is today, that makes it a lot less likely, I think, that they go, hey, let's destroy this thing, because we built structures and we built infrastructure there for, you know, ecotourism or
No, you're right.
access, so
The more you build, the more you name, the better off you are.
that was my thoughts.
Mr. Pickens?
Is there a definite time frame of where something has to be done with that lock and everything?
No.
Yeah, they're planning on doing maintenance to it, just, I
In a
understood.
few years, they plan on, yeah, they gotta do some repairs, upgrades. They're always doing something on it, but,
Okay.
I say we just keep monitoring it and try to stay ahead of the curve.
The other thing I got is Barton Bridge update. We're at the end of May.
And let me say this before we get off, I do support Commissioner Adams' act. If we can build more things out there that are beneficial to the people that can go out and fish and enjoy nature, I mean, there's nothing better than going out there and seeing the bears and the deer and alligator and manatees. We've had more manatees and go through those locks this year than we've ever had.
Not too close on the bear and the gators, though. Distance.
You just wave it.
I would like to see us put some campgrounds around.
There was a
area.
campground down there at the end of Kentwood,
Right.
but that's something that possibly could get back
I
open.
think that's something we should be looking at in the future is there's, Marion County derives revenue from that. And there's a lot of people that would like to go camping.
Right.
You got Kenwood out, you got areas out there along the barge canal.
Mhm.
That would be great for that. If we could work with the state and whoever owns the land, getting some of that set up.
And there is a rendition for that property. I mean, where there's even a clay pigeon shooting thing by the bar. There's a rendition I saw that takes that piece of property and does something meaningful with it, rather than drive around, do a U-turn and go back,
Well, why don't we do this?
which is what we do with the kids when we drive out there, because it's pretty, but what can you do when you get there?
You know, my concern is Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
if we
I know.
raise too much of this up and running, all we're gonna do is fuel the flame.
No, it's being discussed every month when we have, this is,
I understand, but I'm
Discuss
telling you,
every
it's
month.
being discussed by the same people that's discussed it for the last 30 years.
Yep.
So, and they're gonna discuss it until they either win or don't from now on, because that's their only rallying point they have in all of everybody has different issues in these events, but they all rally around that. So they open up with opening prayer and say, okay, kill Rodman, and then they go on and talk about whatever else they might or might not want to talk about.
Opening with prayer,
Okay, that's a headline.
Okay. Any more, Mr. Chairman? Let's go, please.
Barton Bridge update.
Okay.
We're at the-
When I was out there
Should be
a
fixing to
couple
open
weeks
up.
ago, we're out of the danger zone as far as having to shut it down due to pile driving or removing temporary piles. So that's a good thing, and it hasn't shifted since all the other work they've done.
Is there a bad thing coming?
What's that?
Is there a bad thing?
No, there's no
Okay.
bad thing. Last week,
We're on
I haven't
schedule,
seen it
right?
yet. What's that?
We're on schedule, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just give you an update. Last week, they were supposed to put the rest of the bridge trusses up, or whatever, the flat stuff, I don't know what it's called, but, and then they were supposed to, looking at pouring the concrete deck this week. I haven't talked to them yet this week, but, and then P&S Paving is their subcontractor doing the paving portion. They were supposed to start this week on that, the north side, getting that ready to go to pave, so.
Well, good.
So are we still looking at the first, second week of June to open up the,
No, July, first week of July.
so we told everybody the end of May, 1st of June.
No, it's 1st of July for that full and open on that one side.
When did that get pushed?
I've always,
Thought it was always there, July, first part of July to
We were telling
open
it
the first side up.
end of May, 1st of June to have the one side open, and then by October to have the whole thing completed.
still October for completion date.
But it ain't been closed down. I mean, people can get back and forth. I mean, they got to still do the reduced weight
Yeah.
until,
They
I
got the
always
traffic
heard
light.
it was July from the very beginning.
But it's still, the opening date for the new phase is still July.
Any idea when?
It's first week of July is what they told me.
We do fireworks.
I bet they'll want to, where they don't have to drive them big
If it
trucks
didn't
all
open
the
up,
way
there will be
Sun Garden
fireworks.
Road.
Okay, Mr. Rawls, you tell them. Mr. Pickens,
I'm good.
Mr. Adams,
Along the lines of transportation, and, I still feel by just repairing the 310 bridge, we're kind of losing an opportunity to basically use access to Deep Creek, because that is a navigable water, especially if the reservoir is there. If we build the bridge, we fix it at the level it's at, it'll never be a usable navigable waterway. And just all this talk that we have about doing more to get to nature and stuff, I think it's an oversight if we rush into just simply fixing that bridge and not getting it a little bit higher where a boat can get underneath the bridge and possibly even trying to get a walkway. I mean, I drove by there because I had extra time because we finished early, you know, there's 4 or 5 people fishing there. It scares the crap out of me every time I go by there, and there's guys fishing right off the bridge there. If we had a bridge that had a little walk where the sidewalk on it,
You
like,
wanna build a bigger bridge there? Is that what you're saying?
I've always said that about 310.
Taller bridge.
Yeah, a taller bridge that maybe has somewhere for,
Goes across the barge canal or whatever?
no.
That's a box culvert.
310,
I know.
no, it's not a box culvert.
I was raised out
It's
there.
a
that crunching
full-on
the
concrete sides,
Okay.
Well, something you could take a john boat under, a little bass boat, and go
Yeah.
underneath there. And
a kayak, or,
You know, that's all real good, and we can
Can you
play our
get through there?
violins and our ukuleles, but I'm telling you, that's gonna cost $5 million to build that bridge. Where are we gonna find a $5 million?
it wouldn't be any bigger than the Barden Bridge, it's,
The Barton Bridge was $5 million.
yeah. All right, I'm just saying, it's, if we're talking about using things at Rodham, and that's an opportunity, that's all I'm saying. And,
Well, hopefully, and just say, along the, I support that, I really do. Maybe if some of that money comes from the federal government and we're able to use any of that, I don't know what we're gonna use it for, and I'm just saying, it
Well-
might be a possibility.
Just-
Even 2 to 3 feet higher, Commissioner Amzak is right, you could almost get a little boat underneath there, and it wouldn't be such a dramatic,
and that property on both sides is owned by the state, is that right?
yeah.
So I mean, is there a way, even, let's say let's say we just go with repairing the bridge, is there a way we can work with the state to get a soft landing I mean, there's no parking there either. That's the thing that stinks. So people park all along there off on the side bank. They try to get kayaks down that hill. It's a very
It's a scary place.
scary place, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Especially on a weekend when we have
It's-
something going on at Hogwaller.
I don't know if it's something you want to encourage, to be honest with you, in that area because of that. It's a high-speed intersection, or high-speed area, and a lot of traffic.
Oh, the people out there are asking for it to be lowered to 35 miles an hour, just so you know. A lot of the people out there. So, I mean, they don't want it to be a high speed, but my argument against that is I believe that should be the main thoroughfare for the trucks in the end picture. I think that's why it was built, to go around Interlochen and that to get to the city.
Well, they're not,
so-
even if we try to make them go to Interlochen, they're not going to do. People take the path of least resistance.
Right.
You're right. So we better be prepared for that,
Yeah.
whatever it costs.
So there's something there, something along, that's the only area where the water comes to the road on 310.
How far along were we on those 310 plans?
We're 90% design on the
90%.
plans.
Very done.
And that's just for rehab. I mean, it's not doing anything special, just fixing what was broken, that's it.
Yeah.
No widening, nothing. And we're not even fixing the deck.
Wow.
You're just supporting.
Because we're gonna have to put in $1 million out of reserves in it, that's what they're projecting at this point, even with the DOT money that's left over from after the Etnire Bridge, they're talking about us finding another $1 million just to fix it, much less go in there and do it. So I kinda think we need to see how much of a apple we're fixing to bite off here before we get any deeper in this.
How much would box culverts cost in there?
And not only that, we still haven't
That's
fixed
awful
that bridge.
wide for a box culvert.
We still haven't fixed that
Several
bridge that's out there on, the one with the wood pilings out there on West River Road or
Fish
wherever it
Creek.
is that we talked about maybe trying to get those, pile caps around them or whatever they were called and fill them full of
Jackets.
concrete and save that bridge, and it would, and we still haven't heard squat about it. I mean, I don't know, I'm just telling you that one right there, if we could go fix that bridge for pennies on the dollar of what this deal's gonna cost if we just identify it. We went and looked at the product and found the product, which was basically a sleeve that went around it. You filled the sleeve full of concrete and it made the thing last many, many, many years. And so that one bridge, and I'm sure there's others, but that one we had a picture of here about a year or so ago out there. I think it was West River Road,
It is
one
West
of them
River, it's Fish
creeks.
Creek.
And we need to look at that. I'm telling you, if we don't pay attention, it's not my district, but I don't care. I represent everybody in the county. I think that we need to look at that one, find it where it was, and look back into putting those things around it. It wasn't that much money
Right.
to put these, that's not
They're
called
they're
wraps, they're
fiberglass
called
wraps, yeah,
something,
they're
but, yeah, no, it's a different thing, but it's like,
grout.
basically it's a wrap, and they make them out of metal and then with concrete, and everything with plastic. Hell, you can take a culvert, a plastic culvert, and split it and put it around it and dowel it in and it'll work. We do that all the time. So, I mean, there's many ways you can do this, but once those wood pallets get a little farther gone than where they were, you can't wrap them anymore.
Right.
So this is something that's very time sensitive, so
Can we
like I
get
said,
an
it ain't my
update?
district, but we need to look at that one.
Mike, can we,
Mr. Adams, excellent.
Yeah.
Thank
So conveniently, we got this map and it kind of outlines what I was referring to the other day when JR was talking. So there is no way to get to this corner of the county for if our main station is going to be over here on 315. There's no cross. I mean, you can go Strickland, Cayuga, but you're talking about just to get, let's say, from Indian Lakes Road, you got to go all the way around all of that. It's literally to get from here to there is a 25-minute drive because you can't actually get there. Because this road is although it looks like it's a road, you can't go through there. So this is private and there is no way to get through there. So I still think we need to focus on finishing Lake Susan Road. And my understanding is Old Hawthorne Road wasn't done because people were worried about the trees. We'd have to cut the trees. But we're doing all these other roads with prescriptive right-of-ways. Why couldn't we do that one with a prescriptive right-of-way? And that's a lot shorter and smaller than like Hunter Road and some of the other ones we're doing, where we just pave it so that the EMS trucks can get over to Gordon Chapel Road as their main entrance and exit into that area of the county. And then the other issue is by only having Gordon Chapel paved, we're taking that whole community and we're directing them to go to Hawthorne or other parts of the state and they do not come and shop in Interlochen. They do not make it their way to Palatka because they have no logical means to get there.
Personally, I have no issues with any of that, but one of the issues I have is paving just from prescriptive right of way with no right of way on your side.
I do as well, but this is this is more a public safety thing to me than it is really that route. Old Hawthorne Road is purely about getting to Gordon Chapel Road on a paved road from the EMS fire station.
Anything else?
No, and the same thing from Aquila as well, that you come down 21 and cut across. Nope, that's it.
All right, good. Mr. Turner?
The only thing I'd like to say, Mr. Chairman, is I appreciate my fellow commissioner this morning talking to the paper. I believe it was very add-on. You know, we get along around here, and he said 90, but it's actually probably 95 or better % of the time. We're all on the same page, we get along. And so Jeff and I get in a tussle and show our ass, and I show my ass, and then all of a sudden I'm on the front page that I don't get along anymore, and anger's flare. Well, you can't put me in the room. If anybody that knows me, you can't put me in the room with somebody more than 20 minutes and I'm not gonna get upset about something. And so I appreciate the fact that you brought that up this
and I'm
morning.
an equal opportunity offender, so there you go.
So, you know, I appreciate the fact that you brought that up this morning and tried to point that out somewhat, that, you know, we get along most of the time and we negotiate things and we're on board and so one time in months now since I blew up at Jeff and all of a sudden anger's flare and the world's falling apart is the front
Sells
page
papers.
headline. Well, to hell with them. You know.
There's the next headline right there.
There's your next headline, and actually you can watch this on TV and put that quote underneath my quote of the week. Turner says to hell with PDN. Put that underneath
Hit
mine.
that button right there, please.
Put that one under mine. But anyhow, I appreciate that, and I hope that they took,
I'm getting that.
I hope they took note of some of that, because it's the truth. We get along most of the time. Other than that, that's the only comment I have to say. Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you.
There's your laugh for today, guys.
Larry, before you close.
Thank you,
I
Commissioner Turner.
forgot one thing. The MSBU research that needs to be done for the fire, we never gave staff any directive as far as, so wanted to see if maybe we could get consensus to,
I think that's a good move. I think that,
I thought we gave them.
no, we kind of held back
Okay.
and we want to talk about it some more, but what they're looking for is to see about doing a study to see if it's something that's even worthwhile. I think we should go ahead and do it, and I think
much
we
is
asked,
that gonna
JR, we
cost?
asked you about some costs and you were going to get with
That was where
a
we
few
left
firms.
it, cost.
Yeah, we asked you about some costs and you were going to reach out to a couple firms that other counties had used recently.
did reach out and get a price, but I just don't know that it's fair for me to put somebody else's price out here, especially when it's going out to look for more competitive prices.
Just don't mention the name, just kind of hit us in the ballpark.
So
Can we do that on procurement? We can't do that, I don't think. We need to,
Can-
we need to make sure we're not violating purchasing,
Right.
a purchasing ordinance here. So we need to, if
So-
we're gonna do this, we need to put it out like it's supposed to be under true purchasing procedures and go ahead and put out an RFQ or an RFP and find out what it would cost to have this study done, and then we can make the decision. 'Cause I'm not
Commissioners.
willing to vote to just say, yes, spend whatever you want to see if this is viable or not.
Julianne,
Can we
Commis-
piggyback off of that?
hang on.
Commissioners, if it is the will of the board, what you could allow staff to do is to engage services contingent upon the procurement ordinance. And we would do the same scenario for this procurement as we would do for anything else. If it's under 25,000, Mr. Suggs has the authority to engage it. If it's under 65,000, Mr. Harvey and Mr. Suggs has the authority to engage it. If it's above 65, then a sealed competitive solicitation, if not piggybackable, would be done and then would be sent to the board for them to make a decision. It's gonna be 100 grand, 80 grand, 69 grand. And then the board could make a decision, do you wanna award it or do you not? Even the piggybackable scenario would come back to you if it's above the threshold designated by the board that's allowable for the chairman and the administrator to sign.
While I understand that's our option, this is one issue I want to come back to this board.
Me too.
I want it to come back where we can discuss it, what it's gonna happen as far as the MSBU. It's not something that I don't trust them, I do. I trust both of them to do what's right. I just think this board needs to be able to decide, do we move forward, do we not move forward? How much it's gonna cost to take that next step to see if that's a viable option. I don't wanna just jump into this thing like it's the deep end with murky water and then I break my neck because it's only a foot deep. So I'd like to see do this in the proper steps, and the proper steps would be to see what a study costs, you know, and I'm willing to
So I believe he can at least tell you that he has options that are below the chairman and administrator's authority level.
below 65,000.
Correct.
That's a lot of,
I said, hell yeah, it's a lot of money for just to look at, see if something's viable or not.
That's for them to do a complete study. I mean, of them doing all the studies, having the one-on-one meetings, developing all the plan, putting it out there for the complete package. It's not,
Can't we get a smaller study to start with to see if it's a viable option?
well, that's part of the studies, to come in here and see what you got, the five of you want to make the viable option, whether it be in a residential or whether it be in commercial, because somebody's got to set some parameters where you want them folks to work underneath. I don't know if that helps answer any question or not, but I mean, you guys had to tell them what to do, so we got to bring them on for them to be able to tell you what to do.
okay, Mr. Adams, that,
I think we need to figure out a way to move this forward, and as much as I think that threshold may be high, I think the potential for improving our service and overcoming some of the obstacles to what we heard yesterday outweighs that, in my opinion. So I'm all for moving that forward. And I think we could have the option where instead of the chairman and Mr. Suggs approving it, just came to the board, right? So I'm all for moving that forward at this point if we feel we have one that's below that threshold, just with the caveat that in this particular case, it comes to this board to say yes.
but what does that mean? What is, I mean, JR's looking.
It means it frees him up to tell us what the
Study.
number is once he gets a few numbers.
A full-blown study like we're gonna set it up and with a full report on how to set it up and the whole 9 yard is what we're asking here, and that's not what I wanted. What I wanted was, is it a viable thing to do? In other words, in our situation, the county situation that we're in, is it a viable thing to do?
Yeah.
You know, and not
Well, this commissioner wants a study, a full-blown study.
full-blown study, even though it ain't viable, so we spend 65
Well,
to find out. it
I don't
ain't
think
worth
there's,
nothing.
I don't think we've heard that there's a viability study available to us. That's not,
Well, we
sounds
could
like it's
get
not an
us
option.
what we was asking, get a viability
Yeah.
study.
Okay, Mr.
10
Rawls.
minutes ago, there was nothing but love in here.
Yeah, well, you just had to
So,
show I was wrong, didn't you?
We already have a study that was done.
We do, we do.
Let's dust it off. Can you get that and send that to us? Let us read it. It'll give us an idea of what we're looking at. And then Also, we've already requested this, what some of the other counties are doing, not necessarily counties that are our size, but counties that are having successes. Let's see what they're doing as well. The other data that we would need is actual count of houses in the non-incorporated areas, because we're talking about only non-incorporated, or are we going to be covering incorporated as well?
But we'd cover everything but the city of Palatka. I mean, so we cover now.
So then we would need those numbers. So I think it's 39,000 minus 4,500 or so.
Okay.
So, but then we also need businesses. You know, that way we can start working through the numbers and,
Well, there's vacant lots too.
yeah.
Can I ask a question?
I don't think vacant lots were included in the last one,
I know.
the presentation, it was only businesses.
You're next
and,
on the line. Can I ask?
That's what I was going to ask. We have one somewhere,
Yes.
because I remember when I first got
You were,
elected,
yeah, you sat through it.
we discussed it,
Yes.
and then.
I don't have a
no-
copy of that one. The
nothing
one I
went
have is one from
forward.
2007.
And I've had this conversation with,
look for this before me.
I've had this conversation with JR, because I told him it had what vacant lots were, it had what residential houses were, and where it really was, what I thought was kind of unfair was where the industrial was. And so it had that. I know it had that.
I think it was
And you were there.
75 per residence, 110 per,
Yeah, exactly. It
All right,
wasn't-
let's find, I think let's find that. Do you know where that's at, or do you know who did it? Can we go back and find out who did it?
I'll do some research. It was certainly before any of us got here, but we'll certainly see what we can
It had to
find
be
out.
back in at least 16.
16 or 17.
When did you come on board?
17.
17. So we have to have records back to 17.
The end of
Oh, we have.
16. yeah.
Maybe that company, to ease your mind a little bit, could come in and kind of explain to us.
I bet Tim Parker knows.
Yeah, I
They
bet-
would have had to hit him up for information.
Let's find
I've been in some
that.
conversation with the property appraiser's office, so I've started talking with Mr.
Let's find
Edwards down
that, and let's ask Mr. Suggs, let's give him permission to contact that company
Yeah.
and see if they'd be willing to come back
Presentation.
and tell us what the bottom line hit. We might not ever go back with them, we might go completely a different route, but that'll take care of Mr. Turner if it's gonna be a viable project. If it looks really like it's just not gonna work, then we know that day one.
If there's a roadblock, I'd like to know before it costs a lot of money. If there's not a roadblock, then we'll go look at it.
Okay, are we good with, you got your directive?
Yeah, I mean, I can absolutely, I mean, I can talk to the same company I just talked to the other day and got a price. I just don't think it's fair to them to give their price here, because the only thing is one video away from a
Right.
competitor getting a number. But I think I can reach
Getting
out
a
and they can
price
come
from
back.
one person is a violation of our purchasing policy unless this board has waived that policy. Is that, did I miss something?
It's an exempt purchase.
But I'll reach out. I have a better idea
To
what
do
you're
a
looking
study
for.
is
I can reach
exempt?
out. for
Well,
this, no problem.
and
Legal services.
secondly, Commissioner, remember that we can seek budgetary estimates at any time so that we have an idea of what theoretical projects are gonna cost. And so two things are happening that allows him to go out and say hypothetically or budgetarily, I need to get this in order to bring information back to my board for a final decision. Secondly, he doesn't have to competitively quote it as far as he has the ability to identify the vendor who will provide the best service to the county based on value, because legal services are a service which we have exempted and should be exempted, because
Yeah, but a
you get what you pay for in a
consultant's
lawyer.
not Services,
But
if it's
legal's-
not a legal issue.
But most legal companies are doing these types of things,
Lear was in there.
so.
It's not a company of attorneys, is it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
They all are. Yes,
I'm
sir.
gonna call Chip.
They are.
I was
Yeah,
a
Chip,
commissioner.
that's right, Chip was the.
They
Okay,
they
wait a
are
minute.
attorneys, and attorneys are exempt from the CCNA by
Had the
statute.
thing up on the big
Okay,
screen.
wait a minute,
I
guys.
wonder all you guys having these consulting companies, Rich, where you can be exempt.
Did you say no wonder you guys are rich, or did you say no wonder rich you guys are?
Yeah,
think you're
but
right
you
on the
both.
All right, so let's make this clear as mud, clear as we can, because I don't want you to walk out confused. You're gonna find the old study, you're gonna talk to those people, correct?
If they're still in business.
If they're still in business. If they're not, then we'll probably have to get someone to interpret that for us. And then you're gonna bring that back to us at a workshop where we can see if it's viable product moving forward.
Do we not have that laying around in our
We
file
should
somewhere?
have it, last I saw it, it was in
The
the.
last
tab.
one I read, and I read through the complete 2007 version. I mean, that's the
Bill
only one
was
I
saying
could
here
find.
was one-
And if he was elected.
I was
This is
elected.
for,
Rick Leary left.
It was in
before
the
Rick.
shelf back in Mr. Suggs' office at one
So your
time.
November to whenever he left, that
I'm
that
happy
period
to
of time.
scoreboard.
Yeah, but who knows
16,
what,
17.
It's here somewhere. Someone, and some company has to have it, I'm sure.
Let's look for it, see
Okay,
if we
I mean, like I
can't
said, I've
do
got a
it
copy of the one.
without just belling off. I hate to have a shelf full of studies and we haven't even, didn't pay any attention to what the others said.
Well, I think we did, it was a very, if I'm not mistaken, Commissioner Pickens, it was a very glossed over, and no one had the appetite at that point to move. There was a lot of things going on at that point.
But there was also the confusion
lot of
about
things going on
the
right after
difference
that.
between the MSTU and the MSBU. There was a lot of confusion at the time about that as well.
Yeah,
But we paid for the study. We definitely paid for the
I
study.
remember paying for it. I remember that.
We'll see if we can find the one from 2017. I got a copy of the one from 07 on my desk. I've read through that one.
Okay.
And I've read the one from, I think it was,
I think the good
Lake
news
and
is
Baker.
that nothing has changed a lot since 2007 from a building perspective. Or we don't have that many more buildings, whether residential or commercial, since then. So the numbers would still be pretty good.
Probably close.
Just your end number's higher.
Right. Well, you have to take your need and then take what you have and extrapolate that to get, if it's $100 per home or $150 per home, whatever that number is, to get to where you need to be on the fire side. One question I have is there was a discussion about one of the counties, I guess it's being tested in the courts right now, whether or not EMS can be included in that. Was it Lake County?
Yes, sir. Lake County actually, when we were down and talked to them, they actually got sued because they were funding part of their EMS program through the fire MSBU, and you can't do that. There were some legalities in there because they were actually paying paramedics to function as an ALS provider in a fire truck, and they were paying for it out of the fire tax, basically the fire taxing unit, and it was deemed to be illegal, and they had to reimburse their taxpayers. Almost, I think it was $8 million.
All right, so you're gonna find that, and then you're gonna call the company, the people that did it, and see if they, okay. And then we're willing to listen to them if they're still in business, and,
Okay.
okay?
Okay, and I'm sure the company I talked to that did the Lake County study would also be willing to come up here and speak to you guys.
And maybe they can interpret if the other company's not in business.
Okay.
Maybe we can do that. And we can engage, that probably is not gonna cost a lot of money for them to engage, at least a conversation.
Okay.
Okay, let's see, everybody else has had their turn. I have nothing. County Attorney, do you have any comments? County Administrator?
You have comments?
What?
You have comments?
I can't hear a word.
You have comments.
I have no comment. Do I have comment? Undoubtedly, I have comment.
Go right ahead.
Mr. Brewer would like to respond to a comment, so he can make.
Y'all take as long as you want now. My appointment for this afternoon just got canceled, so y'all just go ahead and talk as long as you want now.
Go ahead.
County Administrator comments is just one really, is, we've been trying to get the appointment scheduled with the constitutionals to do their budget meeting with you five. We have, on June 9th, we have confirmation today for the Putnam County Sheriff's Office at 9 a.m. And I'll wait, I see everybody's pulling out
Yes,
their,
you did.
sir?
Yes, I did too. That's okay, I'll do it again. Go ahead,
So
I'm
that
sorry.
was June 9th, Putnam County Sheriff's Office at 9 a.m. And then the clerk of the court also June 9th at 10 a.m. And then on June 10th, we have the property appraiser at 9 a.m. and the supervisor of elections at 10 a.m.
When do we hear from,
Down, 'cause I can't do it that fast.
when do we hear from?
I've got them written down for you.
Are you gonna email it to me?
Sure we can.
Just
The 9th and 10th at 9 and 10.
But you're gonna email?
Was it
Mr.
9th and 10th.
June 9th and 10th?
You already done that, Sarah?
I'm
Okay.
gonna send it out right now.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
When is Mr. Parker coming to talk to us on tentative numbers?
We will get the tentative number sometime after June 1st, and then we'll get the,
Because I don't want to have a talk with the constitutionals until I know what those numbers.
statutory, you should have them prior then. I believe he has to have them within a certain amount of days after June 1st. And then we'll get our second set of numbers in July
Okay.
from him, yes.
Okay. And I do have a comment, so thank you.
The certified numbers will come in July.
Are you done with your comments, sir?
I am, sir.
I thought there was one more constitutional there. That covers everybody.
Just four.
Just for, because
Just like the county.
we don't approve Ms. Myers' budget. She brings money to us. Mentioned this yesterday a little bit about the online auction and how pleased I am with it. I made mention of the fact that we had a tree growing through a truck. Guys, I'm just gonna suggest this to you. Right now, what we're selling is not quality stuff. Let's just get the auction like we did before. The next auctions, let's do videos, but it's kind of embarrassing right now. I saw some of the things, I think.
Bring more money as a planner.
It's, yeah, but we don't want that kind of, we have enough of those planters
I'm sorry,
around
Mr.
Putnam.
Chairman, it's late in the evening, I get to be a smart ass after 4, it's 4 o'clock.
It was 9:30 yesterday morning, sir.
Maybe
So-
maybe all the time.
So my question, I think the staff really needs some direction here. They're a little frustrated. They want to make a better product, but what we got is not a good product to do. So commissioners, what we need, hang on JR, hang on everybody, I'm having a comment here. What we're trying to do is, they just want to get rid of this surplus equipment over the EOC and then come back to a more video approach that Mr. Adamczak has talked about in the future, but right now our quality is not that good. So let's allow them to do the job they're supposed to do, and we can crawl before we walk, and then we can walk before we run. Is that consensus of the board, Mr. Adamczak?
I wasn't, someone else that brought up the video. I'd like a live auction personally, but
Well, let's finally get there one day, but right now, let's get this stuff sold.
So I'll just give you an example. We did a live auction of the stuff that was the contents of my stepfather's barn, and there wasn't a piece of equipment in there that worked, and it was riding lawnmowers and push mowers, and we got almost the same amount of money that we got for our county equipment on a lot less weight and a lot less items. So a live auction is the way to go. You can't get me off that idea, but I'm only one commissioner.
Another thing, if there's so much weight, metal's up right now.
Well, again,
Metal is through the roof.
yeah, let's get these out of here, and then we can do that, if that's okay with everybody. Is that the consensus of the board to move forward? Mr. Turner, you good?
I'm good.
Mr. Pickens?
Yeah, with this, and then
Yeah.
start to modify and adjust it and enhance it later on.
Yeah, let's start moving in that direction. I think Commissioner Adamczak's dead on the money.
think he's
but
correct,
We need to
yeah.
get this done as we move forward. We need to work towards
I
that.
think that's what the school board does.
Absolutely
They have
sure.
live auctions.
All right, so let's get this auction over with, move this stuff out, clean this up, and the next ones from now on, we'll start trying to do some type of better live auction, virtual, whatever that can be. And Commissioner Adamczak's an auctioneer. You can get with him and he can get that.
Why-
Good.
Why-
Is that good?
Why wouldn't we just ask the school board what they do if they do this? Why are we trying to reinvent the wheel if
We're
they're
not.
already doing it?
No, I'll take it one little step further. I mean, what other counties and other areas have done too is they've combined it with an equipment auction, with whatever the auctioneer's doing, you combine it with their auction and your items are in there with it. So like if you did it at the fairgrounds or something like that, where you could have a bunch of equipment as well, our equipment goes there with it. The idea that they bring in the audience for their better equipment brings our prices up as well. I mean, there's ways to leverage that as well. So in the future, it's something to consider.
All right, but for now, the directive is to continue the course as you've been doing. And then when we get to the next auctions, we're going to start looking at trying to do better. And if we can partner with other agencies or whatever we can do to make a better asset, we'll do that. But for now,
I don't mind either way. I was just asking,
I get it.
what is the issue with just doing it like the school board now if they're doing a better job than we are?
Our
I
product
don't
is,
care if we move on, but,
yeah, our product is not that good right now.
okay,
We're trying to get rid of some of the crap that's been laying around.
okay. It's a good way to put it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Some of the treasures that we held on to
Yeah,
in case
there
we
you
needed
go.
a part.
There you
for
go. In
something,
case
but-
we needed to balance the budget, we kept these treasures to sell.
right.
Okay,
Okay.
I got you.
Mr. County Administrator, you made comments, I made my comments. Do I have any other comments I need to make?
No, but I think Mr. Grimes does have a little more information of what you're just asking
Down,
for.
Mr. Grimes.
What
And there's a reason,
What,
why he
again?
didn't find it.
So I went back to the legal department to ask if where the 2017 study was. It was never completed. They came in here and they did a presentation to the board. The board did not have an appetite for it and threw it out. So there was never actually a master plan done in 2017. It was only a presentation.
Why can't we have that presentation again? Maybe
We
we'll
probably
find out,
could,
do
yeah.
we
I mean,
have
yeah, that's
sto-
something
do
we could do
have
again.
stomach for it or not?
So, I mean, there was actually never a physical document written based upon Putnam County. The last one that we have, the master plan that was written, and I made a mistake, was written in June of 2003. So that was actually the last time that we actually had a study done here. So
You're not going to be fired for a 2003.
I
or
thought it was
2000.
set 2007, it was
Okay.
2003.
I wouldn't mind having a presentation. We may not have a stomach for it again, and then we might. We don't know.
Correct,
But I
okay.
think
So we'll reach out to
that-
somebody to come
that's
here and
the-
do
I
a
think
presentation.
That's the first step.
They
Right.
not have somebody they could recommend that does this?
That's, I was thinking that
Who's
also.
that?
The Florida Association of Counties got to have somebody they
Or
recommend to
rural
do
Yeah,
this.
Neighbors, Gibbons, and, Brian, they're all partners of FAC, and that's what they do for a living. So,
Who would the rural counties recommend?
well, the three that, yeah.
What'd they pay?
Did they go through with it?
Well,
What did you just say, Rich? You said that for them to come give us a presentation?
No, 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 no. Baker County had one done. It was 46,000.
Oh. Okay.
And I
Is
believe,
that who you talked to, this guy here?
no, we spoke to a company, Tyndale Oliver. They're the ones that did Lake County study. Yep. So that's who reached out. I reached out to them after we met with Lake County, and she sent me a project scope back. So, I mean, of everything they would do.
who did Baker County's? I think they're, if we're going to look at, I think you should call them because we're more rural like Baker. You know, I really do think that we.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
we're
Lake
more-
County put theirs in many years ago. This company just happens to just maintain theirs for them every single year.
Well,
Maybe we could get one of them to come talk to us, just to talk to us first. We need to
I
pay
agree.
them some money or find for a little bit to come in here and do a presentation or something, then I'd be willing to, to pay for that first to tell us, yeah, this is very viable. Y'all should really be looking into this. We did it in Baker County, or we
Yeah,
did it in Lake
exactly.
County, and this is the process we used, and this is why we think it's really good
and
for
we
you.
saved this and we got that. yeah.
Then, not only that, we can, go to the taxpayer and say, okay, look, this is the information we use to move forward, instead of that we're just trying to tax and spend or move, or whatever. So, I think that's got to be part of this conversation.
So we're going to go, we'll give you the authority to get with Mr. Suggs and keep it, and have a presentation come to us
Yeah.
at that time.
One of them guys, Rich's guy, or your guy, or somebody come, or guy or gal.
We just picked them. I mean, it was just, the one I
Well, I
just
think we
reached
need
out to
to-
was one that did lakes, because we went down there and saw Chief Dickerson down in Lake County.
We're bigger than Baker, we're less than Lake, but I think we find a rural character.
Hey, Chief, we got consensus.
Okay.
We'll,
Yeah, you got it. Yeah,
We'll,
don't oversell
we'll,
it. Don't oversell
we'll
it.
move forward.
We're good.
No, it's Fire Director Grimes.
Yeah, but once a chief, always a chief, kinda like being a bishop. You never outgrow that.
Never been a bishop.
Very good.
All right. Any public comments from the public on miscellaneous items? Seeing none, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.